Hi.
This is the anatomy quiz. Which organ pumps blood through the body? It's the heart. Did you know? It beats 115,000 times a day. That's 42 million times a year. Which part of the brain controls balance? Cerebellum. Although it's only about 10% of the brain's volume, the cerebellum contains more than 50% of its total neurons. Which structure carries oxygen in the blood? Red blood cells win. These cells are so small that there are about 20 to 30 trillion of them in your body at any given time, and they live for only about 120 days. Which organ produces bile? It's the liver. The liver performs over 500 vital functions, including producing bile to break down fats, storing energy, and cleaning the blood. Which bone protects the brain? The skull. The skull isn't one single bone, but a puzzle of 22 bones that are fused together along jagged lines called sutures. Where does digestion mostly occur? Small intestine. At about 20 feet long, the small intestine has a surface area roughly the size of a tennis court, thanks to millions of tiny finger-like projections. Which organ filters blood to make urine? Kidneys. These fist-sized organs filter all of your blood about 40 times a day, processing roughly 200 quarts of fluid. Which system controls hormones? Endocrine system. Hormones act as chemical messengers, traveling through the bloodstream to tell organs and tissues what to do, influencing everything from growth to mood. What connects muscle to bone? Tendon. The strongest tendon in the body is the Achilles tendon, which connects your calf muscle to your heel bone and can withstand forces of over 1,000 pounds. Which chamber pumps blood to the lungs? Right ventricle. The blood pumped to the lungs is deoxygenated and dark red, not blue. It only turns bright red after picking up oxygen in the lungs. Which organ stores urine? Bladder. A hollow, muscular, balloon-like organ. The bladder can hold between 400 to 600 milliliters of urine comfortably. Which bone is the longest in the body? Femur. The femur is incredibly strong and can support up to 30 times the weight of an adult human. Which organ regulates blood sugar? Pancreas. The pancreas acts as two glands in one. It's an endocrine gland releasing insulin and an exocrine gland releasing digestive enzymes. Which part of the ear controls balance? Inner ear. The inner ear's vestibular system uses 3 fluid-filled loops, semicircular canals, to sense movement and help you stay upright. Which organ absorbs most nutrients? Small intestine. The inner lining of the small intestine completely replaces itself every 2 to 4 days, making it one of the fastest healing organs. Which part of the spine protects the spinal cord? Vertebrae. The spine is made up of 33 individual bones, called vertebrae, with a hole in the middle of each that forms a protective canal for the spinal cord. Which organ removes carbon dioxide from blood? Lungs. If the inner surface of the lungs were spread out flat, it would cover an area about the size of a tennis court. Which body system defends against disease? Immune system. Your immune system has a memory. It remembers germs it has fought before, which is how vaccines work to protect you. Which structure connects bone to bone? Ligament. Ligaments are slightly elastic and can stretch a little, which is important for joint movement, but overstretching them can cause sprains. Which organ breaks down alcohol? Liver. The liver is the only internal organ that can naturally regenerate. It can grow back to its full size even after up to 75% of it has been removed. Which part of the eye controls light entry? Iris. The iris is a muscle that automatically adjusts the size of the pupil, letting in more light when it's dark and less when it's bright. Which system moves the body? Muscular system. There are over 600 muscles in the human body, making up about 40% of your total body weight. Which organ produces digestive enzymes? Pancreas. The pancreas produces a powerful juice containing several enzymes that can digest fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Which bone protects the heart and lungs? Rib cage. Most people have 12 pairs of ribs, but about 1 in 200 people have an extra cervical rib attached to the lowest neck vertebra. Which organ controls breathing rhythm? Brainstem. The brainstem is the automatic control center for vital functions like breathing and heart rate, happening without you ever having to think about it. Which blood cells fight infection? White blood cells. There are several types of white blood cells, each with a different job, like a specialized army fighting bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Which part of the brain handles thinking? Cerebrum. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. In its outer layer, the cerebral cortex is folded and wrinkled to pack more processing power into the skull. Which organ absorbs water from waste? Large intestine. The large intestine is home to trillions of good bacteria that help digest remaining material and produce vitamins like vitamin K. Which structure produces saliva? Salivary glands. You produce over 23,000 liters of saliva in a lifetime, enough to fill 2 swimming pools. It's the first step in digestion. Which organ stores glycogen? Liver. The liver stores a quick-release form of sugar glycogen to keep your blood sugar levels stable, especially between meals. Which system transports oxygen? Circulatory system. If you laid out all the blood vessels in your body end to end, they would stretch about 60,000 miles, long enough to circle the Earth twice. Which part allows sound vibration? Eardrum. The eardrum is a thin, cone-shaped membrane that vibrates when sound waves hit it, transmitting these vibrations to the tiny bones of the middle ear. Which organ helps detoxify the body? Liver. The liver works as the body's chemical processing plant, breaking down toxins and waste products like ammonia into safer substances that can be removed. Which bone forms the shoulder? Scapula. The scapula, or shoulder blade, is held in place only by muscles, not directly attached to the rib cage, which gives your arm incredible freedom of movement. Which part allows taste? Tongue. The tongue is covered in thousands of tiny bumps called papillae that contain taste buds, which can detect 5 basic tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. Which organ helps regulate body temperature? Skin. The skin regulates temperature by sweating to cool you down and by shivering, tiny muscle contractions in the skin to warm you up. Which system includes bones? Skeletal system. You are born with about 270 bones, but as you grow, some of these bones fuse together. An adult has 206 bones. Which organ stores bile? Gallbladder. The gallbladder is a small pear-shaped sac that sits just under the liver and concentrates the bile, making it more powerful for digesting fats. Which part of blood helps clotting? Platelets. Platelets are tiny, irregularly shaped cell fragments that rush to the site of an injury to clump together and form a plug to stop bleeding. Which organ produces urine? Kidney. Each kidney contains about 1 million tiny filtering units called nephrons, which work non-stop to clean your blood. Which organ sends electrical signals? Brain. The brain generates enough electricity to power a small light bulb. These electrical signals travel through your nerves at speeds of up to 250 miles per hour. Which part protects pelvic organs? Pelvis. The pelvis is a ring-like structure that supports the weight of the upper body and protects organs in the lower part of the abdomen. Which muscle pumps blood? Cardiac. Cardiac muscle is unique to the heart. It can generate its own electrical impulses and never gets tired, working for your entire life. Which organ helps digestion with acid? Stomach. The stomach lining produces hydrochloric acid so strong it can dissolve metal, but a thick mucus layer protects the stomach from digesting itself. Which structure carries food to the stomach? Esophagus. The esophagus pushes food to the stomach using wave-like muscle contractions called peristalsis, which is so strong you can swallow even if you're upside down. Which part of the eye focuses light? Lens. To focus on objects at different distances, the lens changes shape, becoming fatter for close objects and flatter for distant ones, a process called accommodation. Which system controls reflexes? Nervous. A reflex, like pulling your hand from a hot stove, happens so fast because the signal travels to the spinal cord and back, bypassing the brain entirely. Which organ removes toxins from blood? Liver. The liver receives about 1.5 quarts of blood every minute through the hepatic portal vein, which carries nutrient-rich blood directly from the digestive system. Which organ produces hormones? Endocrine glands. Major endocrine glands include the pituitary, the master gland, thyroid, adrenals, and pancreas, each releasing specific hormones into the bloodstream. Which organ controls most body functions? Brain. The brain is about 75% water and is the fattiest organ in the body, consisting of about 60% fat. How many did you score out of 50? Comment your score, and if you enjoyed this, like the video and try the next quiz.